Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on solar carports. We've had a lot of great interest in our carport product, so we thought it would make sense to host a session and go into greater detail. As a bit of housekeeping before we begin today's session, we strongly encourage your questions and participation, so please ensure you drop your questions into the chat, into the Q&A button, which is located at the bottom of your screen. So just to test that it's working, please drop a little note, just drop a hello into the Q&A section right at the bottom. Okay, looks like it's working. Great. All right, so just a reminder that this session is being recorded. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you today's speakers. Joining us are Sam Alradi, Vice President Operations at Polar Racking. Sam has over 16 years of experience with 1.5 gigawatts of solar project experience. As Polar Racking's VP of Operations, Sam is responsible for driving growth in developing and executing solar project pipelines and profitability. Next, we have Arash Yazdani, Chief Operating Officer for PRI Engineering. Arash is the driving force behind PRI Engineering. He is a designated professional engineer and has been working in the field of geotechnical engineering for over 15 years, specializing in solar foundation design. Arash and his team at PRI have been involved in geotechnical investigation and foundation design of hundreds of solar farms across Canada, the United States, and the Caribbean, in addition to geotechnical investigations for municipal infrastructure, airports, and roadways. And also joining us for today's Carport Q&A, we have Ielcio Gomez Jr., Engineering Lead Carports at Polar Racking. Jr. is an accomplished engineer with diverse experience that spans across 2 continents, contributing to complex projects including solar farms, biomass power plants, and subway buildouts. He's also helped to develop one of the largest solar farms in Canada. Welcome. Sam and Arash will be leading today's webinar, and Junior will be on hand to answer your questions. Sam, over to you.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Marlene. Good day, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to learn more about our carports and foundation design and the challenges of installation and foundation before and during construction. Just to begin with, we're going to be, Arash and I, we're going to provide an overview of Polar Racking and PRI Engineering and what services and products they offer. We're going to go over some carport market trends, carport configurations and options, and we're going to mention a few key products and features that kind of differentiates Polar Racking and PRI from the market. And the one that I'm most excited about is we're going to be going over some case studies and tell you a little bit of history on the challenges that we face on some of those projects and how our teams have creatively overcome those challenges. And we'll finish it with some Q&A. So please drop in your Q&A questions in the chat, and we'll go over them at the end of the meeting. If we don't have time, apologies. We'll make sure we address them in email or however communication method that suits you. To begin, we'll start with Polar Racking. Just a little bit about Polar Racking. Polar Racking is a North American leader in design and engineering and manufacturing of PV mounting systems. We have in-house experience, geotechnical, structural, and mechanical engineering team that we complement those engineering services with our construction support and construction services, mainly in the States, and construction support in Canada. We support our North American clients from various locations in Toronto, Calgary, and various locations across the US. Next slide, please. We want to go over some of the key products that Polar Racking offers, and we provide custom solutions for whatever project and location and needs. So we have the core. We have the SolX, which is our single access tracker technology, which is very unique. And if you guys are at RE Plus this year or ETC at the booth, and you'll see a live demo of the tracker. will shield. It is our solar carport mounting solutions, and we're going to be going over this today. And one of the most recent and I'm one of maybe the most excited about is the agrivoltaic line of products, which could be either fixed tilt or tracker, depending on your project needs. To complement those products, we also offer a various wide range of solar foundation solutions, driven piles, helical ground screws, and ballasted options. And that really was separates us from the market. We obviously utilized PRI engineering expertise and knowledge in providing a full turnkey solution, one shop stop essentially. A little bit about our manufacturing locations. I think it's important to mention that Racking follows the automotive industry standards in manufacturing. We do have various manufacturing US in Ontario, Canada, and in Asia. We get a lot actually. This question we're being asked a lot. Are you fully compliant with the domestic content requirement in the US? The answer is yes. We are 100% compliant with the domestic content requirements. We have dedicated teams and manufacturing locations for carports. So it's very well set up, and we have gone through a few of the projects we supplied and achieved that percent according to the IRA. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Arash, the Chief Operating Officer of PRI Engineering, to go over PRI and introduce the company. Arash, all yours.
Thank you very much, Sam and Marlene, for the gracious introductions. Thank you to all our participants for today. Real great to see this many people interested in solar carports. Similar to Sam, just wanted to provide a little bit of an introduction to PRI Engineering, who we are, what we do. So we have 3 offices in both Alberta and in Ontario. Ontario offices are conveniently located close to the U.S. border, which has allowed us to, efficiently and effectively service the U.S. market. And of course, we're also servicing the Caribbean market. Our team has over 100 plus years of combined experience in both construction management, construction inspection work, geotechnical engineering, structural engineering, and other types of design engineering work. The team has completed over 500 projects, with the majority of them being in the renewable energy sector, specifically as it relates to solar farms. I would say probably approximately 350 to 400 of those 500 plus projects are in the field of renewable energy. And we also have our own in-house Canadian Council of Independent Laboratories, certified for soil, aggregate, and concrete testing. Procedures are following the ASTM requirements, which is in line with the US requirements. And we also have a import permit, which allows us to bring materials from the Caribbean and the US to our labs in Canada for testing and determining of design requirements. Next slide, please. In terms of the actual scope of work that we can complete on projects, we can really help you at any stage in terms of kind of getting the most benefit from us. It's typically best to allow us to take on the work earlier on the project. Just allows continuity of the information being collected. That being said, in many of cases we've relied on the work of others. There is some specific protocols that may need to be followed in those instances. However, common for us to take on a project in that capacity. In terms of the services we can provide for your project, preliminary feasibility site reviews. So that can be a lot to do with preliminary layouts, determining optimal layouts, considering civil conditions. We're looking at items like grading. We're looking at situations like if there's any previous geotechnical information, we would be reviewing that and determining any gaps or red flags that may change the orientation or layout of your project. From there, if one has not been completed, we would move into a geotechnical site investigation, which is doing typically specific boreholes for the project, collecting information, which would then allow us to determine the preferred foundation type. Based on the preferred foundation type, we would then, consult the racking manufacturer, racking supplier, give them our recommendations. One of the things that we've seen kind of in terms of, part of the reason that, we consider Polar a good partner in these projects with us is that they have adapted their Carport system to a number of foundations, which Sam did allude to earlier, and we will talk to some of the alternative foundation types and some of the case studies later. However, we've got a a philosophy we like to kind of work off of at PRI Engineering, and that's we let the ground do the talking. In a lot of instances, we see racking manufacturers dictating to the geotechnical engineer what the foundation is that they would like to see. And, we always want to have input from the racking supplier, from the contractor. However, one issue we see at times is that dictation of the foundation type may not result in the most practical or constructible foundation to be utilized on the project. And once again, we have a case study that specifically speaks to that, which we'll get into. Moving on with some of our services, we also look at, for those of you in northern climates, site-specific frost susceptibility analysis. That's looking at the susceptibility of the subsurface conditions, your soils, to frost uplift, and then also looking at developing a site-specific frost penetration depth for frost uplift calculations. We're also looking at corrosion. If you're dealing with concrete caissons, which is the typical foundation with most carport structures, we would be looking at determining cement types based on the chemical characterization of the subsurface soils. And if we are dealing with steel, like a helical or a driven foundation, we would be looking at the susceptibility of the steel to the corrosive nature of the subsurface conditions. Pre-production and production foundation load testing. This isn't typically something that's actually completed with many carport structures. That's why I've got it in yellow there. But it is a service that we provide, and that's more common in the utility space. And if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out to us directly, and we can talk about that in this webinar. Which is why we were working with individuals like Polar in a lot of instances, because they're typically mandated on a design build mandate. So constructability is very important, and effective. So that's why we're also considering economics, because they obviously are a major part of the feasibility of these projects. And ultimately, we want to see you as the customer have your project built efficiently and effectively. Finally, we do thermal electrical resistivity testing. We've seen this be requested. We've seen it be omitted with a carport system. Really, you want to have these conversations with your electrical engineer early on to see if your project could benefit from this data, and if so, that information can be collected at the same time as your geotechnical site investigation. Thank you, Sam, Marlene. I'll do a couple case studies later. For now, I'm going to turn it back over to Sam, who's going to talk about global carport market trends.
Yeah, thanks, Arash, for the introduction. Very interesting indeed. So, you might be wondering, like, what is the solar carport market share and why we're talking today about carports? Obviously, carports is very exciting product. It's a very exciting product for us, and we supply a lot of it on an annual basis. But like from this chart, you can see the global solar carport market size is, as of today, is a little bit over $458 million dollars, and is expected to hit around 1.17 billion by the year 2033. That kind of represent of an annual growth of a little bit shy of 10% per year. And if you go on the US solar carport market exclusively, you can see here that as of this year is a little bit over $100 million, but the year 2033, the expectation is to rise to 267 million. It's very interesting from a market growth. Again, it's an over 10% annual growth, which is very organic and very sustainable. And that's why we're talking today about the carport projects. You might be asking, like, again, let's look at what fueling those headwinds. The obvious one is the rise in the adoption of electrical vehicles in North America region. In recent headlines, we've seen the creation of a joint venture across 7 major car manufacturers to build at least 30,000 DC fast chargers across the continent by the year 2030. So that's only like 5 years from today. Who knows? Some of these or all of them will require solar carports. So it's a very exciting thing. Later on, we'll be chatting about how EV chargers are compatible with our structures and how we account for them, or PRI Engineering accounts for them during the foundation design as needed. One of the things that we wanted to mention is that two-row carports dominate the majority of the market. It's like 70% of the market goes with two-row structures. We offer various configurations, which we will cover shortly in this webinar. Okay, some interesting fact. Did you know that in the US alone, there are over 2 billion parking spaces? Some of these spaces you might go to on a daily or weekly basis, like Costco, Walmart, Best Buy, which they have over 8,000 locations across North America. Wouldn't it be nice if your car was shielded from the hot sun and rain after 2 hours of shopping? That's the whole point of the carport here. And we'll talk a little bit about this later. Next slide. Speaking of shielding, our carport mounting system is called Shield. We want to talk about the carport, the different carport configurations. We have 6 different configurations, and we will go over this in the next slide. Our competitive advantage really is we custom design every single carport for every parking lot shape and condition. So we don't force the parking lot to work with our designs. We custom design them. Ability to handle heavy loads like snow and wind in Canada or in the US. Ability to work with multiple foundation designs like Arash mentioned. So we let the geology talk. So in other words, like, we do not force the geology to work with our carport designs. We work with the geology conditions. And we have a perfect case study or two actually to speak about this. Our compatibility to mount EV chargers and electrical gears on the structure and run all your wire management neatly and aesthetically pleasing. Our variance height and span configurations depending on the requirements, and to design to any solar panel size, really, weight and configuration. We use I-beams, we 100% use I-beams. We do not use any aluminum, so we use 100% steel. Speaking of configurations, those are some of the configurations here: the L structure, the T, the Y structure, the pi structure. So the T, the Y, and the pi structures are the ones that are two-row carport shields, and the long span is really as much as you desire. It could be 20, 10, 20, 40, 40 rows of parking rows. And the last one is the check mark structure. Thanks, Marlene. So here's where it gets a little bit interesting. We go over the configurations and options of our carports and how we custom design them based on your needs and requirements. And one of the most asked questions is, okay, what do you do for waterproofing? So we have multiple solutions for waterproofing. We chose to present this one, which is the rubber gasket for now. In this picture, you can see it. So if you're developing or building a project and your client requires no water to come through the solar panels, don't worry, we got you covered. Our waterproofing solution has proven to be an easy and quick method to install, very affordable, and not at all noticeable from where you park your car. So again, go back to aesthetically pleasing point. Most of those carports are located in areas where people see them, unlike a fixed tilt system or a single access tracker system where they could be in a remote area. So our team works very hard to make sure that all the components that go in the carport structure are aesthetically pleasing. Another big one is the underdecking. So you can see from the picture here on the left, the water runs to the lower part of the carport and collected by water management solutions. In this case, it's the downspouts. As you can see also on this project, we're covering the whole carport with the underdecking. And one thing to mention about this is it can be customized to any color required. So it could be, in this case, it was silverish, but it could be white, it could be black, it could be green, it could be red, whatever the branding of the location that you build this carport, this could be customized to it. Another solution and customization here is the snow management. It minimizes if not eliminates, the fall of snow on the parking lot. As you can see here from the picture on the top right hand side, it has zero shading on the panels, which allows the full utilization of the module cells to produce power. This is obviously a big one for developers to kind of increase their return of investment. And if you see it on the picture on the bottom right-hand side, from the parking lot, you really cannot see this snow management solution. It does not impact the aesthetics of the carport whatsoever. Coatings, we get this question asked, actually, I think the most. Coatings can be in any different colors. You can see here 3 options. You have the steel galvanized color, you have the white color, you have the black color, but again, it could be any color. It's powder coating, and we do this as per the request from our clients. So this ties it all back into the EV chargers. Our designs and racking columns can accommodate the extra loads. For any chargers attached, you attach it to the columns or side base according to your locates, essentially. And it could be the EV chargers, it could be your inverters, it could be your electrical gears, it could be whatever you want it to be. Our structures are fully compliant from the electrical code. With that, I'll hand it over to Arash. Arash will speak about some interesting case studies. This is the part that, again, I'm very excited about for you guys to hear about our case studies and the challenges that we have faced. Arash, with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. It is interesting. As I mentioned earlier, PRI has worked on a number of renewable energy projects across the continent, and the customization that goes into a carport is quite fascinating. Whether that be from the weatherproofing, whether that be from the colors and the aesthetics, inclusion of downspouts, inclusion of gaskets. There's a lot that can be done. You could get a bare bone basic design, or you can get a very, very comprehensive design that kind of meets a number of needs. For our case studies, we've tried to choose, a unique cross section of the types of projects that Polar is working on, and we're supporting with them. In a lot of cases, Polar is um, being slated with the task of doing a design supply build, EPC operation of the carport. So it includes, Polar taking lead as the manufacturing and construction management lead. PRI, in most cases, will act as the engineer of record for the foundation. And there's another one of their partners, Pezzi, who assists with the construction oversight. So that team was involved with this Bakerly Carport project. This is a very nice project. It's actually the system you'll see in the webinar intro slide there. It's what they call a long span structure. There's just some stats there which I won't go over about the actual system, but the thing I do want to draw your attention to is that it is one single table that is 1 megawatt. If I could get the next slide, Marlene. So there is the beautiful Bakerly long span structure. There's 42 caissons. One of the unique challenges with the long span is you need to make sure that you have a very competent contractor you are working with. When you're dealing with independent tables that might be smaller segments, the exact orientation of the foundation height or the foundation location isn't as critical. However, when you're working over such a long span, your grading and alignment need to be quite precise, whereas there's much more tolerances in the other system. Obviously, the benefit and advantage of this system is that it gives you full shading. You can park your car underneath this structure and be fully protected from the elements, both as you walk to your office or whatever the facility you're going to, and also your vehicle stays dry, safe from snow, hail, or whatever other weather conditions are unique to your area. With this project being in Texas, it did have some very unique soil conditions. The soils here were sensitive clays that were highly susceptible to swelling. And so what swelling is it's a property of a clay where it absorbs the water and it expands, and that expansion puts a upward pressure on the foundation. So that was one of the kind of major design components that had to be looked at, which is only unique to this type of project, i.e. a site where there's sensitive clays. For those of you from northern regions like myself, like we're used to uplift, but it's caused from the expansion of the soil because it's freezing from frost uplift. So this is just a little bit of a different circumstance that you typically see in warmer climates. And the challenge here is that, as everybody knows, Texas can get very, very hot. It's not uncommon to get, well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. In those instances, clays are susceptible to a property called desiccation, which essentially means the clays dry out, all the water is evaporated out of it. As the water evaporates out of it, it can crack. And so if you get a flash flood or a flash precipitation event, the cracks can create preferential flow paths for water to flow into those clay layers, and when they go from dry to highly moist, they expand, and that's what causes the swelling loading on the foundation. So that was something that had to be considered on this foundation, on this site. Can I get the next slide, Marlene? The foundation did end up being what I would say is probably the most typical foundation type for carports, which is a caisson structure. But it was a little bit deeper than we initially anticipated because of this swelling behavior in the clays. Okay. So from there, moving on to the Nessel Carport project in New Jersey. In this instance, in the previous instance, we relied on the geotechnical investigation. We, being PRI Engineering, relied on a geotechnical investigation completed by others. In this instance, we actually completed the geotechnical investigation directly for Polar and their customer. What we found was some challenging subsurface conditions, and so because of that, we utilized a helical foundation, and we'll discuss the technical merits of that decision here in a second. But one of the unique things here was that because of the nature of helical piles, there was an adjustable top plate, so you can kind of see that in that photo on the right-hand side. That's a threaded section which was adjustable in the vertical direction. That was to accommodate the potential construction installations tolerances of a helical foundation and the racking system. Once again, I won't summarize the system size details, but there's some of the stats as it relates to the project. And then talking about the actual challenges, so this was a T-shaped structure. So that typically would mean that you're going to have two-row shading, which Sam did speak to, represents about 75% of the carports being constructed in North America, I believe he said, or it might have been in the world. Nonetheless, I think everybody appreciates there's benefits of being able to cover two rows versus one. It does create a more optimized structure. So what were the challenges I was alluding to earlier? This site had a high groundwater table and unstable subsurface conditions. So remember, I was speaking to the fact that caisson foundations are your typical foundation type for carports. With that being said, when you're installing a caisson, one of the big decision factors when it comes to constructability is the stability of your boring. So what I mean by that is, a caisson drill is going to drill a hole into the subsurface. That tooling is going to be removed from the subsurface and typically will leave you an open hole. If that open hole can't stand up on its own, which would allow, installation of the rebar and then placement of the concrete, you would need to case that hole. So you'd be using a caisson drill with a casing advancer, which is quite the specialized piece of equipment. For probably every caisson drill out there, like maybe 20 out of 20, maybe one of them would have a casing advancer on it. So that represents a premium. It also represents an unfavorable construction condition. Even if you were to case the hole and stabilize the subsurface conditions, you would still be combating high groundwater table. And what I mean by that is, a casing is basically just a steel pipe that's going to support the sidewalls of your boring. Water can still come from the bottom of the excavation up into the foundation, meaning that you would either need to do some extensive dewatering, some localized dewatering. In this case, that wasn't feasible. The soils were sandy at Nessel, meaning that the recharge rate as you pump the water out was too quick, and you couldn't find, unless we were doing extensive dewatering, which requires, once again, specialized equipment, we wouldn't have been able to keep up with the flow of groundwater into the boring. So by using a helical, we eliminate the need for boring altogether. You advance the helical into the ground, no excavations. The installer shows up with the helicals. They spin them in. And then, like I mentioned, you have the ability to do the adjustments after the fact because of the pile cap that was created specific for this type of foundation solution, and ensures that the grade of the site and the structure is met. That's all from me. I'm going to turn it back over to Sam, who's going to talk to a couple projects which focuses more on customizing a racking system based on your site-specific needs.
Thanks, Harash. Yeah, you know what? We get asked a lot if our carports can be compatible with helical piles, and I guess that case study really addresses that. Is the answer is yes. Again, we work with the geology. We do not force the geology to work with our designs. That was a very interesting case study as well. We the National Research Council here in Ontario. So we utilize two type of structures here, an L and a T-shaped structure. The foundations, to Arash's point, those are the typical, maybe a little bit more typical foundation design, which is the caisson. The challenge here, though, with the foundation and designing the carport structure, it was like the existing parking lot had a number of subsurfaces features, and our team had to really work around those features, and I'll show it in the next slide. Maybe if we can go to the next slide, please. And our team really had to be creative in how to design a carport structure with the foundations, and the foundations get installed in locations where they support the carport structure in a very optimized way, and also without increasing the number of foundations and hitting any subsurface conditions. So you can see here like the locates. You've got storm and sewer lines, you've got gas lines, the utility service lines, the communication, the water services, and many unknown. So two ways actually to overcome this challenge is you need like a very accurate survey to provide to our team, and then our team can do their magic to design a carport again to the needs and to the carport to the parking lot conditions. And then we worked with our construction team in order to get those foundations and get that carport structure installed in the right manner. And the result is, in the next slide, you can see that we have built those four structures, 3L structure and 1T structure. So one thing that I want to mention here, like one of the lesson learned from this case study, is feel free to reach out to our engineering team. Feel free to send us your parking lot conditions, and our dedicated carport team will have a look at this, will review this, will come up with the most optimized foundation design. I know it's absolutely needed and necessary to kind of sketch something in a helioscope or in a PVSS, but the lesson learned here is definitely overshare the information with our dedicated carport team, and they will optimize the design and the layouts. And the next case study, this one is in Maryland. This is top of the building carport structure. The foundation here was anchor bolts embedded to concrete on the top of the building. It was this is a great application for carport, just generally speaking. And our team in this case worked very closely with the owner of the project. They did a lot of collaboration, and they spent a lot of engineering time and engineering hours to maximize the coverage of the carport while reducing the number of foundation columns and therefore like the anchors needed for the foundation columns. So you can see here like the system designed based on the anchor bolt layout. We have special brackets designed to accommodate the large jerk tolerance. And at the end of the day, we did install about 1,100 solar panels and on the top of a building successfully. So we kind of wanted to tie it in all together and give like a service recap on what Polar Racking and PRI Engineering offers. we would love to get involved in very early stages to the reasons I just mentioned. We would like to do like a site plan and layouts. We would love to optimize your carport structure. We would love to minimize the number of foundations needed. We would love to maximize your output and minimize your installation costs. So we do a site layout, we do structural packages, we stamp all those structural packages across Canada and the US. We provide the calculation packages for the builders, for the developers, for the financiers. We provide our own construction management. So two paths you can take here. Even you can hire Polar Energy Services to complete the construction of your project, or you can hire your own installer and contractor, and our team will be on site to support throughout the lifetime of the project in training and answering RFIs, whatever the case is. Carport customizations, this is where, again, we have a dedicated team for carports, but as a company, we have over 3 gigawatts of experience in building solar projects. So you're not only utilizing a company and a team that only knows carport, they've got the muscles and the knowledge and the experience of building, of engineering, manufacturing, installing, lesson learned of over 3 gigawatt of solar projects. So we do a lot of customization. Our team is very creative. We're lucky to have them when it comes to snow management, water management, lights, finishings, EV chargers, locations, and whatnot. We provide carport renderings because we know this is an important trend, and our clients ask for carport renderings to showcase how that carport will be installed. Permitting packages, that's an obvious one, and the foundation designs and drawings and geotech by collaborating with PRI Engineering, which 99.9 of the times PRI Engineering, when they get involved, they actually reduce the cost of the foundation and reduce the number of columns required, and they actually provide us with a great customer support and construction experience to expedite our project and minimize the surprises during construction. Yeah, with that, we'll answer your questions, and I see a few questions in the chat here, but some of the questions that we get to ask a lot: how can I maximize my lot size with solar carport? Like I mentioned, just over communicate, send us your layout, send us your initial layout, and let our team take a stab at it and let you know what you can do on your site. Will it look good from a water management perspective? Absolutely. We have, I think, if you can go to the next slide, like the next slide showcases how you can have lighting, how you can have the wire management, how it's all like looking neat. You don't see the inverters because I don't have a picture of them, but we place them in a location where they're not really accessible to the people who are parking there. You can see the wire management, how neat and clean that is. We utilize a lot of I-beams. So in the I-beams, we make room for the wire management and whatever DC wiring that you have to run. One of the questions that we also get asked a lot is, okay, how can I expedite my project? Well, we have a very friendly lead times on the racking structure, but one of the things that we help expediting a project is we install the foundations ahead of time. So if it's a helical foundation, then we've got the helicals. They can arrive faster than the structural carport structure. And if you do a caisson, then we start doing this work ahead of the delivery of the carport. So that way, you kind of can expedite your carport installation, and you can be in and out very quickly. With that, I'll leave it back to Marlene, and let's see if we have any more questions from the audience.
Thank you, Sam. That was a great session. We do have some comments and questions that have come in. One of them is, can we have a similar arrangement for a driveway at home for residential application?
Driveway, yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely a smaller solution, and our R&D team is actually working on a few solutions that could be you can buy them off the shelf, if you may say. But in the meantime, if you have a location and you have like you don't even need a layout, just send it to our team. Go to our website. We have an intake form. You can fill out as much information as you'd like from that intake form, and that intake form gets submitted to our team. We will review it, and we will provide the solution that we think is the most feasible for your application.
Another question here is just around ideal height or tilt angles, if you can comment on that.
I can jump in on that, Sam, if
Yeah, absolutely.
allow me. Basically designed to your necessity. One of the requirements, for example, for one of the case studies we just showed was the labs. They do require a height of 13.6 because of emergency vehicles, but sometimes you can go as low as 10 foot, right? So that depends on what you want to park. We design to any height you need based on your necessities, right? So if you're looking at the regular cars and trucks, we're probably looking at 10 feet. If you look at trucks, we're looking at probably 15 to 16 feet. So all depends on what you're planning to park under your structure. And then as we mentioned, we can design to any any height you need. Now, as for the tilt, carports are usually 5 to 7 degrees, with the long spans a little bit shallower because that minimizes the height on the other end. So you're gonna be looking at the long spans around like 3 degrees, and then for T's and L shapes, you're probably gonna look into like 5 to 7. But again, if you need a special request and then bringing back the labs ask us for 12 degrees, and then we design for 12. I'm just mentioning 5 to 7 because that's most common, like the request for carports.
That's great. Thank you, Junior. There's one last question here around compatibility with microinverters.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of microinverters personally, so it's definitely compatible with microinverters. We have some applications where we used some sort of like a mini mounting solution for the microinverters, depending on the project location, depending on the microinverter spec, which we can look at. We design a mounting bracket for the microinverter so you can have it installed on your carport. So the answer is definitely yes, compatible.
Okay, there's another question here around how do you design the lateral load resistance in both directions?
Well, that I would leave more for my structural engineer to talk about it. That basically it goes around the building code, right? Everything's based on the building code. So we're gonna go through all the load arrangements over building code, and then we designed based on that. So basically, that would be like make it shorter, a short version from the answer, but everything's based on building code requirements. Martin, if you allow me, there's one for Javier that's really interesting.
Maybe I'll just add to that real quickly. So in
Yeah.
terms of like lateral dissipation and lateral design, is it possible to go back to one of the photos showing the undercarriage, Marlene? Of the carport. I think it was like 2 photos ago, like the one the photo it was of that Sam was talking about microinverters.
You're referring to the photo of Aspen, the one in Maryland?
Aspen, I think
Yeah.
so, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the white superstructure.
Okay, bear with me. I'm just gonna go back to the slide here.
Nope, that one right there. Oh, go back, sorry. Or forward.
This one here?
One more. Oh, that didn't end up showing what I want, but I can explain
Okay.
from this. So, obviously, your lateral, a lot of the lateral load gets pushed to the foundation column. In some instances, you may have seen some bracing being added from the column to the purlins or beams, and that is what would add some lateral rigidity if the section itself wasn't big enough to carry that load. Back to you, Sam or Marlene.
So there are some questions here around residential applications. So what would be the cost of sending a request for a residential carport?
Yeah, I can take this one. Just generally speaking, whether it's for residential or non-residential, there is no cost in sending a request and having us looking at it and pricing a project for you. That's the one thing that we do for our customers. We look at all the requests equally, and we try to optimize at the design, and we try to provide our recommendations and provide a proposal accordingly at zero cost. So if to answer the question, it doesn't require any dollars to do this.
Okay, so we'll take our last question here, which is the fact that they operate in a hurricane-prone region. What category of hurricanes or wind speeds are carports rated to withstand?
You want to go, Sam? I can go. Yeah, we designed to your load. So we just made a design for Bahamas with 200 kilometers an hour wind. So whatever the loads you have on your area, we designed for that. So as we have been said, we are very customizable to your needs and to your loads and to your area. So let's say this way. So it's not like a one case fit all, and then we're gonna be looking to case by case and load by load, and definitely we can design for these loads. We just made one for Bahamas.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So that pretty much concludes today's presentation. I hope the session was informative, and if you are looking for additional information or for a quote, we encourage you to please reach out to the team at Polar Racking as well as PRI Engineering. Thank you very much, everyone, and we hope you have a great day.